Hello, guys. So it's me, Victor. And this is a long overdue video, but since I have a couple of weeks off before I start fully working, I decided to try to enlighten you guys with something. Today, we're going to talk about heavy, light, medium. And it's a program that I think is rarely talked about because the founder of is Andy Baker, who kind of like generalized the system in Practical Programming for Strength Edition 3. And some of the things that that book kind of lacks, I'd argue, is kind of a progression scheme after you initially start heavy, light, medium, is what we're going to get into and talk about today. Now, heavy, light, medium is an intermediate program, so you don't do this when you jump into it because intermediates need different routes of progression. Routes of progression meaning that you can't tweak every other day, add 5 pounds to the bar. So this is for people coming off of starting strength, strong lifts, any beginner program, Grayskull LP, literally anything. And they want to continue making strength gains. Well, Andy Baker has a really good video, and I think I'm going to touch upon it in this video too. But what that video sort of lacks is the progression after you stall out on this first edition of Heavy Light Medium. So I think I'm going to make two parts of this video, and this is part one, where it touches on the basics and how to run this. So let's say, and as you guys can see, I have a whiteboard. Let's say, and I like a little darker blue. So let's say you guys are coming off a starting strength LP and you have maxed out on your 3x5s and you're grinding it out and you're like, you can't chug milk and it's not coming. Another 3 sets of 5 isn't coming. So the basics way you'd run this is that for heavy, light, medium on a very basic premise, there's 3 days that I suggest running it. And it's heavy, light, and medium day. And there's different ways of running it. This is how I suggest a beginner heavy, light, medium starter program to run. And we're going to call this method running it out. So if you're coming off of, let's say, starting strength and your best 3x5 weight is a 315 squat, we need to talk about how we start this. So this is your best 3x5 weight. And you know for a fact, there's no way in hell you're going to add another 5 pounds to the bar next Monday or next Wednesday or Friday. So how do we do this? Well, heavy, light, medium. That's your best weight for a novice LP. Well, take off like 10% of the bar or take off, I think, a reasonable amount of weight, like 10, 20 pounds. And let's just take off 15 for shits and giggles. So your heavy day, and these are for squats. So S is for squats. For your squats on your heavy day, take off the 10, 15 pounds for your beginning week. And you're going to end up getting 300. Now, this 300, you're lowering it for a reason. And the reason for this is that you're not taking it for 3 sets of 5, but instead you're taking it for a solid 5x5. Now, this is a solid 5x5 across the board. It's more load. It's not more load. It's less load, but more intensity and more reps and more total volume than this solid 3 sets of 5 at 315. Now, this is going to be heavy, and you're most likely going to be sore. You're not going to get used to it. This is a new stimulus. There's 2 more extra sets, and it's harder. So with that being said, the next day, this is not the next day, so you have your recovery, like intermediate day. So this could be your Monday. This would be your Wednesday. This would be your Friday. So from that, you're going to be really smart. You want a light day in between. So take your 300 and take 20% off. 20% and then do a solid 3 sets of 5 reps. So you see, it'll be lighter, but it's in order to stimulate your recovery, and your recovery is going to come in fast. And hopefully your recovery comes in really good. And then it's more touches on the bar than otherwise you wouldn't have. So already we're talking 25 touches plus another 15 touches, which is a decent amount. Now, this is 20% is coming from your heavy day's weight. Now, let's go to medium day. Now, medium day is in a similar sense. Medium day is then taking that initial weight here and only taking off 10% of the load. But instead of doing another 5 sets of 5 or another 3x5, I think in order to get more touches and to make this more valuable for yourself and to continue grinding this out as long as you can, you take this for a solid 4 sets of 5 reps. So think about it. In starting strength, you're only doing 3 sets of 5 across Monday, Wednesday, Friday. We're talking about 45 reps. Here you're doing 25, 15, and another 20 reps. We're talking about 60-ish reps. And I'm just doing the math at the top of my head. So in reality, sure, load may not be higher every week, but you can't sustain that. So we need to figure out a way against it. So what we do instead is that we spread the load across the days in order for you to have a reasonable amount of time to recover and adapt and to continue making new gains. So you're no longer going to be making gains every other day, like in starting strength. Rather, you're going to be making gains every other week. So think about it this way. You hit your 300 by 3 sets of 5, you're 20% of 300 for 3 sets of 5, and you're 10% for 4 sets of 5. That's a lot of touches. That's a lot of practice on the bar. It's great. So that's your squat. That's heavy, light, medium. And then the next week, the week after, instead of doing your 300 and then your 20 and 10, you would do 305 for 5 sets of 5. So it'd be 305. And then you do the same thing by 5, by 5. And then you would go to your 20 and your 10. Now, here's the thing. You would also do this for your bench, and you would also do this for your deadlift. Your deadlift's a little bit different. For your bench and press, we'll cover it bench and press. You would do a similar. You do your 5 by 5, you do your 3 by 5, and then you do your 4 by 5. And the same percentages across the board. These are nutshell percentages. They can vary if you need them to be heavier to get more stimulus, if you need them to be less to be more recovery, if you need them, if you need them to be less for more stimulus, or you need them to be higher percentages for more recovery, so be it. That's up to you. But these are basic baseline percentages that I think work, that'll help you run this method out. And this is the same 20%. Now, here's a note on bench / press. These alternate. Similarly, how they alternate in starting strength, 1 week, you'll do press, 1 week, you'll do bench. And you can alternate them with your heavy, light, and medium. So basically 1 week, and I'll make this a different color. We'll make this a nice solid pink. So 1 week, you'll do your bench 5 by 5, your 20%. Could be your bench, and then this heavy day could be your bench too. Another way of doing this could be that 1 week you do bench, press, bench, so your press would be your light. And another way you could think about it, if you want to alternate it, it depends on your goals. You would do press, bench, press, kind of like starting strength, we alternate. Or if you don't even care about your press, which I know some of you don't, because bench is the king of all pressing, you just do bench across the board, which is also doable. You can forget about your press if you really want to. I don't suggest to, because I think it helps to have your nice meat here and to continue making progress for your tris, especially for me. I have sticking points in my triceps. Like, if these suckers aren't meaty, then my bench ain't moving. So put in some type of press work for your light day maybe. But let's just say you don't want to care about your press. Let's just follow the same system we had for our squats. You're going to do your, no, I don't like that color. You're going to do your 3 sets of 5 across the board. So let's just say you squat and you bench and forget about the press, which is fine. I suggest doing your press on your light day, but that's me. And then alternating the weeks for press and benching to continuously get some gains. You don't have to, if you want to run press, if you want to run press by itself, run press by itself. If you want to bench by itself, run bench by itself. It's up to you. But the same percentages apply. Your 5 by 5, your 20, and your 10. Now your deadlift changes a little bit. And your deadlift is different. Because you guys remember in like starting strength or Grayskull LP or strong lifts by a 5. I'm not sure about Grayskull, but Rip and all the people, I forget the nice Indian dude's name for strong lifts, who just copied Rip, by the way, but that's a side point. Your deadlift, your heavy day is gonna be a 1 set of 5 across the board. And similarly to what we did on starting strength, whatever your ending weight is, just subtract like 20 pounds. Same thing here, subtract like 20 pounds, start fresh, try to get some initial numbers so this doesn't grind to halt immediately. So it's going to be a 1 set of 5, and it'll be heavy because you're coming off from 3 sets of 5 heavy, and 5 by 2 5 by 5s that are heavy to a deadlift heavy. So it'll be a really grindy day, but that's fine. You're just running this out as long as you can to get a maximum amount of gains. And then for your light day, this is deadlift. I personally think you will benefit greatly if you do rows. Well, I don't think you should deadlift more than twice a week. I think rows are a very good option for your light day, to be honest. So you could probably run rows, and I'd say 3 sets of 10. So rows are really beneficial. Make sure they're barbell rows. Make sure you do them like deadlift. They're really good. They help build your back, and your back needs to be meaty. Now, how about your medium day? In a similar sense, you can take a little bit more weight off. So let's say 10 to like 20% off the bar. You can range it depending on how your recovery feels for your heavy day, and do your 4 sets of 5. Now, this might be kind of crazy because most of you don't understand. Like, The one set of 5 is only for novices. So if you're coming off a starting strength, you're like, oh my God, 4 sets of 5 on deadlift. What is this? It's fine. Do your 20 to 10% or 10 to 20% off the bar and you'll be okay. Now, will this progression work? No. Forever, it will work. What I mean, it won't work forever. Now, here's what we're talking about. Think about it this way. Will you forever, ever, 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 ever be able to run? Will you forever be able to run a heavy set of squats 5x5 continuously? Eventually, here are your weeks. Week 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Eventually, at one of these days, one of these weeks, this 5x5 will be too hard. It will just be too hard to finish. Now, here's the thing. If you know you're not going to be able to do it that day, let's say you hit a grindy 350 for 5 sets of 5. You're like, you know what, bro? Next week, I don't know if I'm going to have 355. That's fine. So what's going to happen is, this is why you call it running it out. You're going to drop the 5x5. And let's say you have already known that there's no way you're going to do that 5 sets of 5 of 350. There's just no way. You just can't. There's just not enough days in the week. It's impossible. And that's fine. I mean, totally granted. So what you're going to do, and you're going to be really smart about this, is you're going to drop the triples, a 3x3, and you're going to keep grinding. So you drop the triples on everything. Now, mind you, you might not drop the triples on everything in time. Same thing here, 3x3. And your deadlift, you can also drop the triples as long as you're still hitting some type of thing. Here's the thing with deadlifts, though. You only want to do 2 sets of triples. You do 2x3 because you still want to get that sense of 5s. So you run that 2 sets of triples for, 2 sets of 3 on deadlifts, and everything else could be triples. Now, it'll be heavy. So let's say you go around with triples for a while, and you can keep the percentages here relatively same for your 3 sets of 5 and your 4 sets of 5. Now, here's the thing. If you feel like your recovery is getting really hammered at this point and you can't have enough recovery, you know what? You can do 2 options. Let's say that your 3 sets of 3 you don't feel like fresh enough for them. It could be that these percentages are too high, so lower them, or too small, raise them for less intensity, or do yourself a favor and knock off a set here and start doing 3 sets of 5. And now you've knocked out a set here for your medium day. You have this light day still existing, and you drop sets here. At this point, you're just like maxing out as much as you can to get this heavy day. So it's running it out for a reason, because you're going to max these triples again. So you're going to say, let's say you get to week 6, 7, 8, 9, and you get to week 10. Okay, week 10 comes and you're like, damn, I can't hit that 370 3x3. It's too hard. Well, this is where things get a little interesting. Now, everything, instead of being triples, you're going to drop it down to 5 singles by 1. So 5 singles by 1. And similarly for the deadlift, you could do the same thing, 5 singles. And you run your singles to the floor. This is what I mean by running it out. You run your singles for another 11, 12, 13, maybe you get to week 14. At week 14, you're like, damn, do I really want to continue running singles? And the question becomes, well, it's pretty obvious you don't want to run you want to run this out for too long. At this point, anyways, you might only get to week 14, like another 2 extra weeks with singles. Well, that's good. You ran it out. You have a lot of experience in your belt with singles at this point. You have, let's say, 3 weeks of singles. Okay. Let's say you're sick of singles. Let's say you're done. You don't want to grind this out any longer. You did your 5 singles too long, and you ran this and you're getting beaten up and you can't recover in time. So you know what you do better? So your final week of heavy, light, medium in the running it out method, this is going to be broken up in 2 videos. This is in 2 videos. Their final week in running it out method, you know what you're going to do? You're going to end up dropping, you're going to drop, you're not going to drop anything. You're going to do something smart. Your final week of heavy, light, medium, your week 15, you're going to do what every bro wants to do. Test your 1 rep max on your heavy day. Test your 1 rep max on your heavy day. And then take the rest of the week off, because you'll have new data. You'll see how strong you've gotten, and take the rest of the week off, relax, resort. You did it. You ran heavy, light, medium to the floor. This is where most Andy Baker's practical programming ends. This is where most of the stuff you find online ends. Now, part 2 to this video is going to be, where do I continue after I have ran it out to the floor? So I'll see you for part 2. This is only part 1. This is called the running it out method. Part 2 will describe steps to continuously do heavy, light, medium. to basically kind of as long as you want. So this is that part one. Andy Baker did a really good job on describing this part one, so I'm just kind of reverberizing it to you. Part two is going to be finding articles that Andy Baker wrote and other people wrote, and kind of like generalizing it so we can no longer just run heavy, light, medium out, but do something called cycling, where cycling is going to be no longer weekly progression because it's impossible at that point. You'll have to cycle through. Maybe it's monthly progression. Maybe it's every 3 weeks you get a progression, sort of like 5-3-1, but in a much better way, because I don't think 5-3-1 is a good program. So with that said, part two will be out soon. This is part one. Thank you for watching. I hope you found this video helpful. And if you need to figure out how to run part more to it, then we're good. And we'll have it. So with that said, guys, thanks very much. And I'll see you guys in the next video.